Good evening. This is All India Radio. I am Valsa Williams and with me is Nipunika Shahid with the evening news. The headlines. NDA candidate Jagdeep Dhankar elected as 14th Vice President of India. President Draupadi Murmu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Union Ministers and several leaders extend wishes to Mr. Dhankar on his victory. Environment Minister Bhupendra Yadav urges people to stop use of single-use plastic to contain menace of plastic pollution. Export of India's agricultural and processed food products rises by 31% in first 3 months of current financial year. 7th Governing Council meeting of Niti Aayog to be chaired by Prime Minister in New Delhi tomorrow. At the Commonwealth Games, Indian athletes Avinash Sable and Priyanka Goswami win silver medals in respective events. India also claims silver in men's lawn bowls. India short of 3 more medals in wrestling and boxing each. Indian women's cricket team enters final of Commonwealth Games, defeating England by 4 runs, confirming another medal for the country. And in men's cricket, 4th T20 International between India and the West Indies at Florida and the US tonight. NDA candidate Jagdeep Dhankar has been elected as the 14th Vice President of India. Voting for the post of Vice President concluded at 5 this evening. In the election, Mr. Dhankar won by 346 votes over opposition's candidate Margaret Alva. Returning officer for the Vice Presidential election and Lok Sabha Secretary General Utpal Kumar Singh made the announcement regarding results in the Vice Presidential election during a media briefing at the Parliament House this evening.
I, Utpal Kumar Singh, the returning officer for the Vice Presidential Election 2022, hereby declare that Sri Jagdeep Dhankar, Raj Bhavan, Ward 45, Hare Street, Kolkata 700001, has been duly elected to the office of Vice President of India.
Mr. Singh said out of 780 votes of members of Parliament, Jagdeep Dhankar got 528 votes, while Margaret Alva could garner 182 votes. He said 15 votes remained invalid.
The counting of votes commenced at 6 p.m. after the ballot box was opened in the presence of authorized representatives of the contesting candidates, election observers and counting officers. 725 votes were polled, which was 92.94% of the total electorate. 710 votes were found valid and 15 votes were found to be invalid. Thus, the percentage of valid votes is 97.93% vote.
Regional parties including Janata Dal United, YSRCP, BSP, AIADMK and the TDP had extended support to NDA's candidate Jagdeep Dhankar. In the election, along with the UPA allies, Aam Aadmi Party, TRS and Jharkhand Mukti Morcha had supported Mrs. Alva. On the other hand, All India Trinamool Congress had abstained from the Vice Presidential election. The Vice President is also the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Present Vice President of India, M. Venkaiah Naidu's term is ending on the 10th of this month. Earlier in the morning, as the polling process began, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Union Ministers Amit Shah, Rajnath Singh and Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla were among the first to cast their votes. BJP President J.P. Nadda, former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, several union ministers including Anurag Singh Thakur, Nirmala Sitharaman, Nitin Gadkari, Dr. S. Jaishankar, Piyush Goyal, Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, Bhupendra Yadav and Dharmendra Pradhan, Congress President Sonia Gandhi and Tiruchi Shiva of the DMK were among others who cast their votes. Our correspondent gives us a profile of the newly elected Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar.
Born in a farmer family in Kitana village in Jhunjhunu district of Rajasthan, Jagdeep Dhankar served as an union minister in Chandrasekhar government in 1990. He served as governor of West Bengal from July 2019 to July this year. Mr. Dhankar was elected to Lok Sabha once and once to Rajasthan Legislative Assembly. He was enrolled with the Bar Council of Rajasthan as an advocate in 1979 and since 1990 he had been practicing primarily in the Supreme Court of India. He has appeared in various High Courts of India. He is a former president of Rajasthan High Court Bar Association. Anupam Mishra, AR News, Delhi.
President Draupadi Murmu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, union ministers and several leaders have extended wishes to Jagdeep Dhankar on winning the vice presidential election. In a tweet, President Murmu said the nation will benefit from his long and rich experience of public life. She conveyed best wishes to him for a productive and successful tenure. Congratulating Mr. Dhankar on being elected as the 14th Vice President of India, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu said the nation will greatly benefit from his vast experience and legal expertise. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Vice President-elect Jagdeep Dhankar soon after his election to the office at his residence in Delhi and conveyed his greetings and best wishes. Congratulating Jagdeep Dhankar on being elected, Union Home Minister Amit Shah said it is a matter of joy for the whole country that a farmer's son has been elected as the Vice President of the country. In a tweet, Mr. Shah said Mr. Dhankar has been continuously associated with the people in his long public life. He said the upper house will definitely benefit from the close understanding of ground issues and their experience. He expressed gratitude to NDA allies and other parties and members of parliament for supporting Mr. Dhankar. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh congratulated Mr. Dhankar and said his long public life, wide experience and deep understanding of people's issues will certainly benefit the nation. He expressed confidence that he will make an exceptional Vice President and Rajya Sabha Chairman.
Union Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change Bhupendra Yadav has urged the people of the country to stop the use of single-use plastic to save the environment from the menace of plastic pollution. The ban on the use of single-use plastics was notified by the Union Environment Ministry in August last year and came into effect on the 1st of July this year. In an exclusive interview with All India Radio, Mr. Yadav asked the citizens to opt for biodegradable alternatives.
मैं आपके इस महत्वपूर्ण प्लेटफॉर्म के माध्यम से जो भी लोग सुन रहे हैं उन पर आह्वान करना चाहूंगा कि सिंगल यूज प्लास्टिक को बंद करिए। ये हमारी नालियों में जाता है, हमारे पशु खाते हैं, हमारे कृषि क्षेत्रों में अपशिष्ट पैदा करता है, हमारे समुद्रों में कचरा पैदा करता है, जिसका किसी प्रकार से निस्तारण नहीं कर सकता है। अपने देश और अपनी पृथ्वी को हरा भरा करने के लिए जो सहयोग आप दे रहे हैं उसको अपनाइए और जो इसके विकल्प हैं, जो बायोडिग्रेडेबल है, सस्टेनेबल है और हमारे लोकल उत्पाद हैं, इसके जो विकल्प हैं उसको अपनाने का काम करें।
The minister also highlighted the global initiative for environment launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi called Lifestyle for the Environment, the Life Movement. Mr. Yadav has stressed upon the common but differentiated responsibilities of the nations around the world in tackling the emerging issues of climate change and climate justice.
पेरिस एग्रीमेंट का जो विषय है, जिसकी मूल धारणा है CBDR, कॉमन बट डिफरेंशिएटेड रिस्पांसिबिलिटी, उस धारणा में विश्वास करते हैं और इसीलिए हम ये मानते हैं कि सभी देशों को अपने जो राष्ट्रीय लक्ष्य हैं वो अपने अपने देश की राष्ट्रीय आवश्यकताओं के अनुसार निर्धारित करने चाहिए। यही कारण है कि भारत क्लाइमेट जस्टिस में माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में दुनिया के विकासशील देशों की आवाज बना है और हमने इस बात को भी कहा है कि विकसित देशों के द्वारा जो अतिरिक्त कार्बन उत्सर्जन किया गया है और उसके लिए उन्होंने जो $100 बिलियन देने की बात कही थी उसको वो पूरा करें, विकासशील देशों को क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस उपलब्ध कराएं, टेक्नोलॉजिकल ट्रांसफर कराएं ताकि दुनिया के सब देश मिलकर पूरी दुनिया पे आने वाली जो जलवायु परिवर्तन की जो संकट है उसका मुकाबला कर सकें।
The full interview of the Union Minister can be heard in our special program Spotlight at 9:15 p.m. tonight on FM Gold channel and additional frequencies. This will also be available on our website newsonair.nic.in and on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. Minister of State for Personnel and Public Grievances Dr. Jitendra Singh has said in the last 3 years the Central Administrative Tribunal CAT achieved a disposal rate of around 91%. Newly appointed CAT Chairman Justice Ranjit Vasantrao More today called on Dr. Jitendra Singh and discussed the modalities to achieve almost zero pendency of cases as mandated by the Prime Minister. Mr. Singh said that despite the crippling effects of COVID between 2020 and 2021, the CAT benches disposed of about 30,011 cases from the filed 55,567 cases.
Union Minister for Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Purushottam Rupala, chaired a high-level meeting in Jaipur this afternoon to review the situation of lumpy skin disease spreading in cattle in Rajasthan. Agriculture and Animal Husbandry Minister of State Lal Chand Kataria, and officers of Animal Husbandry Department attended the meeting. Talking to reporters after the meeting, the Union Minister said that apart from Rajasthan, the lumpy skin disease is spreading in the states of Gujarat, Punjab, Uttarakhand and Andaman and Nicobar. He said the effect of lumpy is more in 11 districts of Rajasthan. Mr. Rupala said the central government is ready to provide all help to the state to save the animals and to contain the disease.
मेरा बहुत ही स्पष्ट मानना है कि जो अफेक्टेड एनिमल्स हैं उनको आइसोलेट ही रखना चाहिए और अफेक्टेड एनिमल्स के दूध के प्रयोग से बचना चाहिए। वैक्सीन के बारे में बिल्कुल भ्रांत में रहने की आवश्यकता नहीं है। गोट पॉक्स जो वैक्सीन है वो नाम से ही लगता है कि गोट के लिए, मगर ये स्ट्रेन जिस प्रकार का है वायरस का वो उनसे बिल्कुल मिलता जुलता है और हमारे साइंटिस्ट जो कम्युनिटी है उन्होंने एक्सपीरियंस करके प्रस्थापित कर दिया है कि अभी के जो वायरस हैं इसी वायरस में एक गॉट पॉक्स अक्सीर दवा है, सो उसमें बिना संशय से गॉट पॉक्स का प्रयोग करना चाहिए। हमारी एडवाइजरी में हमने रिटर्न भी दे दिया।
The export of agricultural and processed food products has risen by 31% in the first 3 months of the current financial year, according to the provisional data released by the Directorate General of Commercial Intelligence and Statistics. The overall export of agricultural and processed food products increased to $7,408 million in April to June this year, from $5,663 million over the same period of the last fiscal. The export target for April to June this year was fixed at $5,890 million.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will chair the 7th Governing Council meeting at Niti Aayog at Rashtrapati Bhavan Cultural Centre in New Delhi tomorrow. The meeting will pave the way for synergies towards a new era of collaboration and cooperation between centre and states and union territories. We have a desk report. All India Radio News has launched a weekly interactive program, Abhyas for Competitive Examinations. It is aiming at reaching out to students and job seekers preparing for competitive examinations. The program is in Hindi and is broadcast every Saturday between 9:30 to 10 p.m. Every week, a subject is chosen. Students can ask questions through WhatsApp or email, and a guest speaker or expert responds to their queries. Questions on each subject are selected on the basis of crowdsourcing from the students across the country. The program also includes segments like Explainer, Fact File, Examination Calendar and Question of the Week. The 19th episode of the program will be aired today. The topic for this episode is Political Science. All India Radio News has got an overwhelming response for the show with questions received from across the country. Shri Sanjay Rao, Professor and Head of the Department of Political Science, St. Stephen's College, New Delhi, will be responding to the queries of the aspirants. This episode of Abhyas will be on air on 100.1 FM Gold at 9:30 p.m. today. You can access it on Twitter @AIR News Alerts or on AIR News Official YouTube channel and also on the News on AIR app. So join us at All India Radio News for the Abhyas every Saturday at 9:30 p.m. on 100.1 FM Gold. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
अपने बिजनेस को बढ़ाने के लिए लीजिए आकाशवाणी का सहयोग और दीजिए उसे बुलंदियों के पंख।
आपका बिजनेस लोकल है या राष्ट्रीय, आकाशवाणी देती है उपभोक्ताओं तक पहुंचने का हर विकल्प।
और अब तो आप घर, दफ्तर या दुकान पर बैठे बैठे कर सकते हैं आकाशवाणी के किसी भी केंद्र के लिए विज्ञापनों की बुकिंग।
आकाशवाणी के विभिन्न चैनलों पर विज्ञापन देना सुलभ और सस्ता।
बुकिंग है तो संपर्क करें 8700014242 पर
8700014242।
Welcome back to the evening news. Here is a review of this week's Parliament proceedings. The discussion on price rise and the passages of the National Anti-Doping Bill 2022 and Family Courts Amendment Bill 2022 were the highlights of both houses of Parliament this week. Replying to the debate on price rise in the Lok Sabha on Monday, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said India remains fastest growing economy in assessment of global agencies and there is no question of the country getting into stagflation or recession. Ms. Sitharaman said gross NPAs of banks that was at 6-year low of 5.9% and India's debt to GDP ratio was at 56.21% in 2021-22, which is much lower than many countries. Citing GST and macro data, Ms. Sitharaman said the Indian economy is getting more robust and efforts are being made to bring down retail inflation below 7%. The finance minister said the global supply chain was badly disrupted due to COVID-19 and despite that, India could keep the inflation below 7%. Referring to previous UPA rules, she said there were more than 9% inflation for 22 months during the UPA government. She added during that time, inflation was in double digit for 9 times. Participating in the discussion, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary of Congress said the country's economy is very precarious. He said income from agriculture has decreased as against the government's promise of doubling farmers' income by 2022. Chaudhary said medical inflation in the country has been on the rise. Manish Tiwari of Congress and Nishikant Dubey of BJP were among others who participated in the discussion. Earlier in the morning, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla revoked the suspension of 4 Congress MPs when Congress leader Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary said it was not the intention of the opposition to hurt the chair. Birla said he was hurt by the incidents that took place in the House over the past 2 weeks and urged members to work towards upholding the dignity of the House. The 4 Congress MPs, Manikam Tagore, Ramya Haridas, T.N. Pratapan and S. Jyotimani, were suspended for the rest of the session for protests and carrying placards inside the House. After the revocation of suspension, the House took up discussion on price rise. In the Rajya Sabha, discussion on price rise on essential items was held on Tuesday. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman replied to the discussion in the upper house. The Central Universities Amendment Bill was introduced in Lok Sabha by Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. The bill seeks to convert the National Rail and Transportation University, a deemed to be university, into Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya, an autonomous Central University and India's first transport institute. It aims to expand the scope of the university from beyond the railways to cover the entire transport sector to support the ambitious growth and modernization in the field. It was passed by a voice vote after a brief discussion. Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan said the legislation will generate appropriate human resources to meet the needs of the growing infrastructure of the country. Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav said the focus of the institute will be on 5 major aspects: transport-focused courses, skill development, applied research, technology development, and transport economics and infrastructure financing. On Monday, the Rajya Sabha passed 2 bills: the Weapons of Mass Destruction and Their Delivery Systems Prohibition of Unlawful Activities Amendment Bill 2022 and the Indian Antarctic Bill 2022. The Weapons of Mass Destruction and Their Delivery Systems Prohibition of Unlawful Activities Amendment Bill 2022 amends the Weapons of Mass Destruction and Their Delivery Systems Prohibition of Unlawful Activities Act 2005. It prohibits unlawful activities such as manufacturing, transport or transfer related to weapons of mass destruction and their means of delivery. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar moved a motion for the passage of the bill. It was later passed by a voice vote. It was already passed by the Lok Sabha. After the passage of the bill, the chair called for taking up the Indian Antarctic Bill 2022. The bill aims at regulating visits and activities to Antarctica and set ground rules for potential disputes that may arise among those present on the continent. Under the provisions of the bill, private tours and expeditions to Antarctica would be prohibited without a permission or the written authorization by a member country. Union Minister Jitendra Singh moved the bill for consideration of the House. Sujit Kumar of the BJD and Narayan Reddy Sirgapur of YSR Congress are among others who took part in the discussion.
After the discussion, Minister for Science and Technology Jitendra Kumar moved a motion for the passage of the bill. Amid sloganeering by the opposition, the bill was passed by a voice vote after rejecting opposition amendments. The bill has now received the nod of Parliament as it was already passed by the Lok Sabha.
On Tuesday, the Lok Sabha passed the Wildlife Protection Amendment Bill 2021 by voice vote. It seeks to conserve and protect wildlife through better management of protected areas. Replying to a 4-hour-long debate, Environment and Forest Minister Bhupendra Yadav said the NDA government is committed to carry out development activities along with protecting the environment. He said the government works on the principle of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and is working towards the betterment of all wildlife species alongside humans. Congress leader Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary alleged that no opportunity was given to civil society to give their views on the proposed legislation. S.T. Hassan of Samajwadi Party, BJP's Janardhan Mishra and Kirtivardhan Singh, Pradyut Bardoloi of Congress and A. Raja of DMK also participated in the discussion. On Wednesday, Parliament passed the National Anti-Doping Bill 2022 with Rajya Sabha approving it on Wednesday. The Lok Sabha had passed it on the 27th of July. The bill seeks to provide statutory framework for the functioning of National Anti-Doping Agency and National Dope Testing Laboratory in sports. Moving the bill in the House, Mr. Thakur said it would help in the establishment of the National Board of Anti-Doping in Sports with competent and independent personnel. Replying to the debate, Youth Affairs and Sports Minister Anurag Thakur said the Standing Committee has given useful suggestions on the bill, most of which have been accepted. He said that sports is a state subject and the state governments have to play an important role in enhancing sports infrastructure. The minister said India is now holding world-class events, which is evidence of its rising stature in the sporting arena. He said 187 countries are currently participating in the 44th Chess Olympiad. The minister said the government is encouraging traditional sports in the country. Following the minister's reply, the House adopted the bill by a voice vote. After the passage of the bill, the House passed a statutory resolution moved by Minister of State for Finance, Pankaj Chaudhary, to increase excise duty on some steel items. The government withdrew the Data Protection Bill from the Lok Sabha on Wednesday. It was introduced on the 11th of December 2019. The bill was referred to the Joint Committee of the Houses for examination, and the report of the Joint Committee was presented to the Lok Sabha on the 16th of December 2021. The bill was withdrawn by IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav. The Energy Conservation Amendment Bill was also introduced by Power Minister R.K. Singh in the Lok Sabha. It seeks to make it mandatory for buildings with a minimum connected load of 100 kilowatts to meet their energy requirements from renewable sources.
On Thursday, Parliament passed the Family Courts Amendment Bill 2022 with the Rajya Sabha approving it amid din. The Lok Sabha had already cleared the bill. It seeks to amend the Family Courts Act 1984. The Act allows state governments to establish family courts. The central government is empowered to notify dates for the Act to come into force in different states. The governments of Himachal Pradesh and Nagaland have set up family courts in their states under the Act. However, the central government has not extended the application of the Act to these states. Speaking on the bill, Law and Justice Minister Kiren Rijiju termed the bill important and stressed the need to give priority to the family courts, saying the government has urged the states and the high courts to establish family courts in each district in the country. On Friday, Power Minister R.K. Singh introduced Energy Conservation Amendment Bill 2022 in the Lok Sabha for passage. He said the developed countries are no match to India in the speed at achieving their pledges for clean energy. Jagdampika Pal of BJP and Mahua Moitra of TMC were among those who participated in the debate, which remained inconclusive. The Competition Amendment Bill, which seeks structural changes in the governing structure of the Competition Commission of India, CCI, was also introduced in the Lok Sabha. Minister of State for Corporate Affairs Rao Inderjeet Singh introduced the bill seeking substantive provisions to allow the CCI to address the needs of new age markets. The New Delhi International Arbitration Centre Amendment Bill was also introduced in the lower house. Law Minister Kiren Rijiju tabled the bill, which seeks to establish an autonomous and independent institution for better management of arbitration in India. The Law and Justice Minister Kiren Rijiju introduced a bill to amend the New Delhi International Arbitration Centre Act 2019. Being Friday, several members introduced private members' bills in the House.
In the Rajya Sabha on Friday, Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu said members of Parliament do not enjoy any immunity from being arrested in a criminal case during the session or otherwise. Giving this clarification during zero hour, the chairman said there is a wrong notion among members that they have a privilege from action by agencies while the session is on. The Rajya Sabha debated a private member's bill, Right to Health Bill 2021. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia said the government has already set up 1.22 lakh Ayushman Bharat Health and Wellness Centres, and by the end of this year it would reach its target of having 1.5 lakh such centres across the country. He said these Ayushman Bharat Health and Wellness Centres are working on a holistic approach and have facilities such as eSanjeevani platform, offering OPD consultation service through telemedicine and teleconsultation. The bill was introduced by Manoj Jha of RJD last month, seeking free healthcare for all. And that is all in Weekly Parliament Review.
All post offices across the country will remain open on holidays falling ahead of the Independence Day to facilitate the sales and distribution of national flags under Har Ghar Tiranga campaign. Ministry of Communications informed this in a statement today. It said special arrangements will be made for the sale of national flags on 7th, 9th and 14th of this month through at least one counter at post offices. The ministry said special arrangements will also be made for the delivery of the national flags in all delivery post offices.
अब हर घर की छत पर शान से फहरेगा तिरंगा, गुनगुनाए जाएंगे नव विकास के गीत, आन बान शान का प्रतीक राष्ट्रध्वज तिरंगा। आइए आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव के पावन अवसर पर इस स्वाधीनता दिवस हर घर फहराते हैं तिरंगा और लेते हैं भव्य और सशक्त भारत के निर्माण का संकल्प।
आइए हर घर फहराएं तिरंगा।
At the Commonwealth Games today, India added 3 silver medals in its kitty today. Avinash Sable won the silver medal in 3,000 meter steeplechase, clocking new national record mark of 8 minutes 11.2 seconds. The second silver medal was won by Priyanka Goswami in women's 10,000 meter race walk final. Indian men's team won silver medal in lawn bowls fours event. They lost 5-18 against Northern Ireland in the final. The country was assured of 3 more medals in wrestling and boxing each. In wrestling, Ravi Kumar Dahiya stormed into the final of 57 kg with 14-4 win over Pakistani grappler. Naveen defeated England's Charlie Bowling in the semi-final, and Vinesh Fogart overpowered Mercy Bolafunaluwa of Nigeria to sail into women's 53 kg freestyle category. In boxing, India confirmed 3 medals after Amit Panghal advanced into final of men's 51 kg flyweight category with hard-fought win over Zambian pugilist Patrick Chinyemba, while Neetu Gangas progressed into the final of 48 kg category. Nikhat Zareen became the 3rd Indian boxer to qualify for the final of women's light flyweight category. In badminton, PV Sindhu sailed into the semi-finals, defeating Malaysia's Jin Wei Goh. In cricket, India defeated England by 4 runs in the semi-final of Women's T20 International of the Commonwealth Games at Edgbaston to enter the final. The men's hockey team will battle it out against South Africa in the semi-finals. India is on the 5th position in medals tally with a total of 30 medals, including 9 gold, 11 silver, 10 bronze medals so far.
Listen to Commonwealth Games quiz with AIR News Sportscan at 7:20 p.m. every day. All you have to do is reply to a question on the Commonwealth Games. Email your answers at airsportscan@gmail.com. The first correct answer will be selected as the winner and rewarded with a jersey of the Indian Commonwealth Games team. So keep cheering to India, listening to Sportscan at 7:20 p.m. on FM Gold 100.1 MHz and on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official.
In cricket, the 4th T20 International between India and West Indies is now underway at Lauderhill in Florida, state of US. India were 14 for no loss in 2 overs when reports last came in. India are currently leading the 5-match series 2-1.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. NDA candidate Jagdeep Dhankar elected as 14th Vice President of India. President Draupadi Murmu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Union Ministers, several leaders extend wishes to Mr. Dhankar on his victory. Environment Minister Bhupendra Yadav urges people to stop use of single-use plastic to contain menace of plastic pollution. Export of India's agricultural and processed food products rises by 31% in first 3 months of current financial year. 7th Governing Council meeting of Niti Aayog to be chaired by Prime Minister in New Delhi tomorrow. At Commonwealth Games, Indian athletes Avinash Sable and Priyanka Goswami win silver medals in respective events. India also claimed silver in men's lawn bowls. India assured of 3 more medals in wrestling and boxing each. Indian women's cricket team enters final of Commonwealth Games. And with that, we end the evening news. Good night.